Bismillah. Now that your question for essay items has been constructed, you have to construct the scoring scheme, okay, or the marking scheme for the essay item there. Now there are two types of scoring, okay. One is analytic and one is holistic. Now let's explore what do they mean. Now for creating analytic marking scheme for essay item, you want to create a model answer and then break the answer into parts. This is what makes it analytic. Okay, and then total up marks for all the parts here. Now let's look at an example. Now the question here is how would you explain the learning cycle until the end? Okay, so this is the prompt, the question here. Now this is what it makes it analytic. Okay, analytic here means to say that there's an element of breaking the answer into constituent part. So in the question here, you can see that focus your explanation on the learning cycle nature, the origin and phases. There are three parts here. Okay, there are three parts here in order to score 15 marks here. So from the three parts here, so when you make an analytic scoring scheme, you break it into three parts. So the first one is the nature, okay, maximum 3 marks, and then origin 4 marks, and then phases 3 marks here. Okay, so you break the answer into three constituent part, and then that's where you write the guide on how lecturers can score it or mark it. Okay, so this is one example there. So break into three parts and then describe what are the characteristics of the answer expected for the answer, and so that lecturers would understand, oh, if they see this, then they know that it is the right answer there. You can also include, depending on situation, whereby if there are other terms in which if students include, it is part of a wrong answer and they should not be awarded, and you can put it there as well. Like for example here, wrong if created or developed by Piaget, Lawson or Cope. Okay, so sometimes there are certain criteria need to specify so that you want to tell the lecturer that not just any answer under the origin will be accepted. So they are wrong answer as well, and it should be noted there if it is relevant. Okay, and then afterwards is the third step here is you summarize the point there. So here 3 marks is awarded for nature, 4 marks is awarded for origin, and 8 marks is awarded for phases, and total, and then you sum up to 15 here. Okay, so this is the parts of answer scheme that you have to develop if you have essay item questions. Now that one is analytic rubric. Remember the key point for analytic is that it breaks into different parts. Now for holistic, hence the word holistic, as a whole. So you assess or you score the answer as a whole. So here, this is what makes it holistic here. So you have, imagine this 5 level here is like 5 marks, for example. Okay, or in the previous question there, let's say if I were to use the same question, right, 15 marks there, I would write it as, okay, 0 to 5 marks, 0 to 5 marks, very poor. Okay, and then 6 to 10 marks, average, and then 10 to 15 marks, excellent. Okay, so and then I write the criteria for the excellent answer, criteria for the average answer, and criteria for the poor answer. So if let's say this is required, okay, this is required, that means to say that there are sometimes certain question, right, requires a holistic scoring method. However, it's quite minimal. Most of the cases is usually analytic rubric, okay, or analytic answer scheme. But it depends on situation. Probably like for example, usually in the case of creative writing, okay, or arts based evaluation, holistic scoring is actually used. So this is the main difference there. So analytic is breaking, okay, the answer into different parts there and marking it separately. This one is marking as a whole. Okay, so you look at the whole answer, and if the whole answer fits the criteria of this, then you award them with 5 marks or 4 marks or 3 marks, and as a whole. So it doesn't break into different aspects such as the one that is done in analytic scoring rubric. Now, essay items, the advantages and disadvantages there. So, essay items can measure what other items cannot, which is expressing through language, and this one usually is in comparison with the MCQ question. Okay, it is less susceptible to guessing, again, comparing with MCQ as well. If the student don't know, then they really don't know, okay. But then again, there's also another risk as well, which is disadvantage here, which I'm going to explain to you later. Now, for BRE items can cover a lot of content because they are brief item. Okay, so you can actually make a lot of questions that are brief response item to cover much more content. And it provides more authentic experience and skills for student. The skills for student to construct their sentences and communicate to other people using sentences and paragraph, right? So it's much more authentic, meaning to say that it is much more matching what is happening in the real world. So in the real world, people write articles and people give speech to communicate with other people. Okay, in real world, people don't communicate using an MCQ. Okay, that's what it means there. So essay items provide more authentic experience. Okay, but there's also the disadvantages as well. The time is it consumes a lot of time to score it or mark it. The accuracy may be influenced by students' language ability. So lecturers or graders need to be careful of not being too influenced by the language capacity and focus on the answer, the quality of the answer. That's why you need the good scoring scheme. Okay, that's why you need the good marking scheme so that lecturers can be focused on what are the criterias and answers to look for, okay, for the question, and not be swayed by the convincing language mastery of the student. Okay, sometimes there are answers whereby perfect English, very good powderful English, okay, bombastic English, but the content is almost nil. Okay, so lecturers need to be careful of looking at and grading this kind of answers. Scoring is time consuming. The first one was it's time consuming to make the marking scheme because you have to have several elements. Okay, as compared to MCQ, you just mention answer A, answer B. But for the marking scheme for essay item, you need to have a model answer. You have to describe the elements of the items. Okay, and the description of the good answer or full mark item, full mark answer, for example. So it's lengthy. The marking scheme is actually lengthy for the essay item there. This one is much more on the marking as well. Is also lengthy because you need to read long answers by the student. And extended response item, sample limited range of content. So it depends. So if let's say your final examination is intended to cover many topics, right? So you might want to employ much more brief response item so that you can cover much more topics. But if let's say the topic is really there are fewer topics, then it's okay to have extended response item, because why the weakness of extended response item is that depends on situation. Sometimes it is limited to only testing one topic. But of my experience, sometimes extended response item or essay items can be constructed in a way whereby it covers multiple topics. That's also possible. If you can do that, okay, and that is also in line with the learning outcome, intended learning outcome, then by all means do that. Okay, right. But this is one of the weakness of ERE. Okay, sometimes it is limited to a particular topic coverage, and therefore leading that the assessment have a limited coverage of topic. So that's about it for essay item, constructing essay item.